and all the requirements that would create. So we moved the account to Ohio, and that was done because many other states had gathered in Ohio with the same situation we had. Ohio already had a system set up. So ABLE has been operated out of Ohio since 2016. This summer, I got a call from my state treasurer, Steve McCoy, who was very active when we were doing the bill in 2016, and he was a very good force behind that bill. And he approached me with the idea of moving the 529A back to Georgia, combining it with our 529 higher education account, which is the Path to College account, and combining these boards with the caveat of putting the one disabled person on the board, as ABLE had at that time one, and then two other representatives on that board that had family-related disabilities. One of those people from Gainesville passed away. Another person moved out of the state, so we have one remaining presently on the ABLE board. So this will combine the two boards, and I'm going to let him speak more to that. But I think this is a very ingenious approach, and I really appreciate our treasurer looking at this. And we're going to have a number of speakers today. We're going to have two commissioners speak on this besides our state treasurer. So we may set a record today in a committee on the weight of our speakers. And I do appreciate, let me say, thank you for the time you're spending today with us in this important issue and matter. So no further ado, State Treasurer Steve McCall, would you come forward and speak?
Thank you, sir. That it's truly a pleasure. Chairman Hawkins, I appreciate you inviting me to speak. Appreciate you sponsoring this bill. You've been a champion for the ABLE program, as have many of you, and that is a pleasure and a privilege to be here. As do most other states now, Georgia has two 529 plans. The 529 plan for college savings is Path to College, and then which celebrates its 20th anniversary this year in April. And then also the Georgia Stable Plan, which is Georgia's 529A plan. It celebrates its 5th anniversary this June. And that my office does administer both programs on behalf of two separate boards. That and when you look at both these programs, you step back and look at them, it could be compared to a Tale of Two Cities. That is the best of times and the worst of times. The Path to College plan is doing exceptionally well. It grew at 32% its assets last year, far exceeding the other plans in the country. The number of accounts grew at 9%. Again, one of the top plans in the country. We were rated by Morningstar a double-notch increase last year to silver, first time ever. We have the lowest cost plan in the country, and it has been. That program is doing exceptionally well in every way. It's got a very good team marketing it or conducting outreach, very good customer support, very good investment options. Georgia Stable, on the other hand, is that we're doing well as far as the investment options. We're tied with Ohio, and together with 12 other states offer the same investment options and the same online access, but it's not the same quality as we have with college savings plan. And also the client service is tied to Ohio. We do not have dedicated resources or dedicated personnel for ABLE. So it is not well known. It is as far as the number of accounts, that comparing the two from college savings plan, Path to College is at almost $4.5 billion, actually closing up 4.6, with 205,000 accounts. whereas ABLE is 12.7 million with I think 1,762 accounts. Now, again, the ABLE program is never going to be the same as the 529. There's not as many people who really qualify. However, we are not doing well compared to other peer states. We do not have the dedicated resources to it. Well, what this bill does is it will give us access to, or it gives us the ability to create operational efficiencies and to have some dedicated resources for the ABLE program. And that we studied all other states to see those that were doing well, what was the difference? What could we do and improve ourselves on ABLE? We found that 17 other states have combined and they have the same board overseeing both programs. And that gives them access to some of the same resources like their online, their website, and to create some operational efficiencies and some other resources. Both programs are self-sustaining, so we do not get state funds. So the legislation in front of you does exactly that. What it does is it takes the two boards and it essentially combines them into one single board which is the Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan Board. The state treasurer will still administer both boards on behalf of both plans on behalf of those boards. We will actually add some members to the College Savings Plan Board. The commissioner of both the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities and also the commissioner of the Department of Community Health will both come on to the Higher Education Savings Plan Board, and along with one individual that the governor would appoint who either has a disability or a family member with a disability or is from an advocate of disabilities. And that this legislation will in no way increase the fees for either program. It'll in no way be a detriment to Path to College. In fact, I think we will find that it'll give us the opportunity to create resources dedicated to ABLE, and that we will have operational efficiencies. And in a few years, it will not be overnight, but I would say within 2 to 3 years, we'll have one of the best ABLE programs in the country. We feel like this will put us not just on a parity with other states, but we should be in a position of, as we have done with Path to College, as becoming one of the leaders. So any questions?
I'm not familiar with the Georgia Achieving a Better Life Experience. What exactly is that program?
That is the ABLE program. Is it whereas the IRS has to approve, excuse me, in order for a tax exempt savings plan, the IRS approved. There was 2 plans over the years. The 529 Act, which allows states to set up college savings plans, 529C it's called, where people can deposit money, open accounts, deposit money, and grow them tax exempt, and then pull those dollars out to fund various expenses associated with college education. And that's been in existence since I think 1999, I believe, was when it was passed. Georgia's had its program effective now. This will be the 20th year. And then several years later, the IRS did, there's an act that expanded the 529 Act, a bill, and it expanded it to also have similar accounts that can be opened for families with individuals with disabilities. And that can be used for a myriad of any really approved expense approved by Social Security. And so both of them are college savings, or both of them are savings plan, tax exempt savings plans. One of them is for college, and one of them is for families with individuals with disabilities. Now, actually, what's called the college savings plan over the years has been expanded to now. It's not just for 4-year colleges or even grad schools. Actually, those funds in the 529 plan can be used for K through 12, for apprenticeship programs, for technical colleges. And so it's been expanded. The ABLE program is really determined by what are approved expenses by Social Security, but it is a very broad range of expenses that can be covered. So it allows you to invest the money, grow it tax exempt until you pull it down. And under ABLE, it is not, it does not impact the amount that can be held by a person and continue to receive Social Security benefits.
Well, but these two things are funded differently?
Yeah, well, they're self-sustaining. There is that the account holders, there are fees that will be, that are paid from the investment options that, that when you open an account, that is funds the expenses of operating the program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your opening remarks, Mr. Chairman, you stated that there was a cap of $2,000. And I believe it was under the ABLE. And we changed that amount. I'm trying to understand the cap and I understand why we changed it, because we limited the amount of money that they could put into the savings.
That was the original legislation, changing the cap of $2,000 and eliminating that in the savings of the disabled person.
And so what is the cap now?
It's,
The cap for ABLE is, let me ask my deputies. What-
100,000.
okay. Okay.
Okay, and so, Mr. Chairman, my question is this: once we merge these two entities together, don't they have separate budgets already? And then if we're merging them, is it just for the purpose, the cost savings of maybe administrative, or is it still two separate budgets? Because this is budget and fiscal affairs oversight. So is it two budgets still that we still have to monitor, or is it all one big pot of money now?
No, good, very good question. No, the two programs will be moved under one board. They'll still remain two programs, two separate programs. And so they will each have their own operating budgets for those programs. There will be efficiencies such as with the website. Over time, we can have one website that'll actually support both programs. So we don't have to support two separate websites. Same on an individual who can be available to actually assist families with disabilities, just as they're able to assist families who are saving for college. The operational efficiencies, there'll be two programs, completely separate programs with reporting to the same board.
One final question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
ma'am. Sure.
So, Mr. Khan, how does the board work? Sounds like we're gonna have a really huge board now. And so everything goes for both of these programs goes through this one board for approval.
That will, right now, there are two separate boards. There's a Higher Education Savings Plan Board, it meets, and then there's a ABLE board, which is our ABLE Corporation Board, it meets. This will move it and have the same members, or really the members of running both programs. Members of that board will operate both programs.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. This is good. You answered all the questions that I had written down during your presentation. So just to clarify though, let me see. The fees are lowered. We're saving folks money, saving the state money, saving all across the board. And this is the best thing that we can do for the disabled folks and families that invest into the ABLE program. Is that correct?
One thing that they said, the fees lower, this will not necessarily lower fees. In fact, this will be neutral to fees. What it'll do is create some operational efficiencies, allowing us to conduct more outreach and assist more families. But it will not impact the fees for either college savings or ABLE.
Thank you for the clarification. Follow up?
Yes.
On lines 137 to 140, it talks about section 7. It's marked out where it's required to collect the fees and charges to cover the administration costs.
it continues this in another section is it'll both programs that allows the board to set the guidelines, and so it'll continue to operate the way it is.
Gotcha.
Good question.
No, thank you so much for your work. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
We have a question online from Representative Wilkinson.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, two quick questions. Thank you for this bill. I guess on line 26, make sure I'm dual tasking. I guess disability is defined what by Social Security, meaning mental or physical. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, and this may be for legislative council as far as the bill itself, if they're in there. On line 47, we changed the definition of the board to mean the board of the Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan instead of Georgia Able. And then when you get to line 80, we abolished that board on the effective date of this act. So I'm just curious if we need line 47 changed. If we just need to leave line 47 the way it is.
That would be a question for the legislative council. They advised me that this would be one board. The way it's worded, that their component is the single board, which operates both programs. It's a very good question, but it's really a legal question.
And I can't tell if they're there or not.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, is legislative council there? Or?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Line 47, we changed the definition to basically say it's a college. We changed the definition of the board to say, let me get back there, that it's a Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan.
Correct.
Which, however, on line 80, we abolish the board as defined in line 47. So I'm just curious if legislative council can take a look at that and determine if we need to make that change on 47. I don't think we need to make that change on 47 from what I've read in the rest of the bill, but I'll defer to them. I just wanted to highlight that on line 80, we're abolishing the board as defined by the Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan. And I apologize, I'm not there.
What it's saying is that the ABLE board will cease to exist. So essentially what it's saying legally is its function will now be taken up under the Georgia Higher Education Savings, well, that board. The Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan Board. So essentially you've got one board that's going to run two agencies. Does that make sense to you?
I agree with that premise. I'm just saying that we don't need to change 47. So,
Right.
And I apologize for not being there, but I would say do not change 47, the definition, because once we change the definition to the Higher Education Savings Board, we then turn around and abolish it. I agree with the bill and I agree with the premise. I just don't know if we need to make that change on 47.
Okay.
It may be somewhere else in the document, but take a look at that and see if it abolishes the board, because that's the only place we really use the board defined that I can see. Everywhere else we say the board of directors, that's the only place we define board, and then in 80 we use board.
We have legislative counsel in here. Would you like to comment on this, please? Hit your button. There you go.
I did not prepare this legislation, and a colleague of mine in the office did. I think that Representative Wilkerson might have a good point here. I need to take a little bit of a closer look though before we can
Okay.
make sure on that.
Thank you. And I apologize for not bringing this up earlier. I just happened to be reading it again this morning. So thank you for taking a look at that.
You're now abolishing that. And so that probably just needs to say Georgia Able. The one we were abolishing. Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of board.
All right. So what Representative Wilkerson, so what you're suggesting is to replace the word board on line 80 with the wording Georgia Able.
Program.
Well, Actually, yeah, either that or I see no reason to change the definition of board unless it's used somewhere else in code. But either way, I'll leave it up to legislative council to make the recommendation, because I don't know if board is used somewhere else in the code. But if you do, then that may be a fix, is just change like 80 to say what you just said. So changing 80 may be the easiest way to do it, because that way you're not conflicting other places in code.
Okay.
Okay.
You're making that in form, are you making that in form of an amendment?
Yes,
Okay.
what you just said.
Okay, committee on line 80, the word board, let me turn this down a little bit. Strike through the word board and insert the Georgia Able program.
Yes, the Georgia Able Program Corporation. Yes, that is what I would suggest.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yes, I would replace that with the Georgia Able Program Corporation. Yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Frazier, does that make you happy now? You good?
No, I'm fine. I was just letting you know that there were boards, the word boards is also being used in other parts of it.
Okay.
And that's what.
Okay. Legislative Council, are you good?
I think yes, it should be Board of Directors of the Georgia Able Program Corporation. Yes.
Okay. On line 80, nowhere else in the bill, or do we have other? Representative Wilkinson, do you see that problem anywhere else in the bill?
I do not,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
okay. All right. Any further questions for our treasurer? If not, I'd like to call Commissioner Noggle, please.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to speak to this bill. Kaylee Noggle, I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Community Health. Have the distinct honor and privilege of having worked with Treasurer McCoy for a number of years in previous capacities, where I also served as a member of the Georgia Higher Education Savings Plan Board. Now I'm an ex officio member of the Georgia Able Board. So I would just like to echo his sentiments. I do think this is a great opportunity. I think he and I worked very closely over the past years to improve efficiencies and operations of the Higher Education Savings Plan Board. And since both of these plans are really offering investment vehicles, tax advantage vehicles for Georgia citizens, either saving to pay for costs associated with healthcare due to a disability or for their education, there's a lot of alignment in what those programs are looking for in terms of making sure that we're offering sound investments, that we've got plan administrators that are in place safeguarding and watching over those funds appropriately. But this really allows for some cohesive alignment and maximizes some economies of scale as we do that. So be it from my former hat on the Higher Education Savings Plan or potential future if this bill were to pass and be implemented, or under my current role, this is great. From the DCH perspective, this just furthers our opportunity to promote outreach and communication about the opportunities that the ABLE program provides to certain members of our Medicaid population that have disabilities and could take advantage of this. And the more that we can do that, the more we all win. So happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the commissioner? Looks like you're getting off light. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. Commissioner Fitzpatrick. Fitzgerald, excuse me. Judy. I'm used to saying Judy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Pleasure to follow Commissioner Noggle and have an opportunity to speak on behalf of this bill, which is not something normally commissioners have an opportunity to do. It's my distinct pleasure. You've heard a lot about the operational efficiencies to be achieved. I think those are real and meaningful. What I'm here to really underscore is the opportunity for individuals and families with disabilities. And what we haven't made mention of yet, one of the one of the problems that we're trying to solve, that's how we like to look at things, right? If we're doing something different, what problem are we trying to solve? The practical reality is we have this fabulous ABLE program, but it is highly underutilized. The penetration rate has been low. And quite frankly, and I want to thank the treasurer and his team who give us very detailed analysis of our performance compared to other states. And what we found in Georgia is that in comparison to other states who started their ABLE programs around the same time, other states were moving faster to enroll people into the ABLE program. It's a fantastic opportunity. We want to do everything we can to make individuals with disabilities or their families who may be enrolling, giving them the opportunity to do so. So what attaching to the 529, my word, really allows, we think, for much greater visibility and awareness and outreach to families to let them know right alongside this very successful 529 program, we have the opportunity for the same kind of investment protection for individuals with disabilities. And what we know now out of the number that Treasurer McCoy mentioned, we're particularly interested at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities because a large number of the individuals who are currently enrolled, in fact, are individuals and families who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, probably around 70% of the currently enrolled individuals. We would love to see this number accelerate and really bring to individuals and families the opportunity for tax-free savings or expenditures that would enable more independent living. And that's really the goal of everything we're doing. So again, I'm just here to support and say this is a terrific opportunity. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership. And I really want to acknowledge Treasurer McCoy's just really adept at understanding how these programs work and then bringing together for a single board. Again, the ultimate bottom line here is being able to help individuals with disabilities and their families. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the commissioner? Seems like you got off easy too, but thank you.
That doesn't often happen when I'm right here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. And again, I'd like to thank our treasurer. I don't believe I did that for bringing this legislation forward and speaking today. Do I hear a motion on the bill? No, first we got to have a motion and then you do the amendment. So first we need a motion. Representative Fry.
Do pass, make a motion to do pass.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Okay. Now the amendment. The amendment will read, the Wilkerson amendment will read, strike the word board on line 80 and insert Georgia Able Program Corporation in that place. Do I hear a motion on the amendment? Yeah.
I believe Legislative Council wants to include the word Board of Directors of the Georgia Able. Is that correct?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Do you want to include that also?
Yes, it would read, instead of the words such board, it would just read the Board of Directors of the Georgia Able Program Corporation.
Board of Directors of the Georgia Able Program Corporation?
Yes.
Okay,
So essentially the equivalent of the definition that is being changed.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Fry. I did not hear that. Okay, do I hear a motion on the amendment? Second. Okay, so we're voting. Let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Okay, amendment passed. Now back to the main bill. All those in favor of 10, look at my own bill number here, 1008. All those in favor say aye as amended.
Aye.
All those against? All right, bill passes. Thank you, sir. We are now to Bill 1040, Representative Patty Bentley. This is a hearing only. You do have some amendments that she has brought to the bill. Go ahead and hear your bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I bring to you this afternoon House Bill 1040, which requires renewed contracts between the Department of Human Services and Community Actions agencies to be fully executed by each member of the Board of Directors of an Community Action agency for any contract on or after October 1st, 2022. Contracts shall only be offered by DHS if a community action agency has submitted a current IRS form and audit reports to the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. Community action agencies originated with the passage of the Economic Opportunities Act of 1964 as a part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. The purpose of this statute was to mobilize the human and financial resources of the nation to combat poverty in the United States. The act established a federal office of economic opportunity and created organizations called community action agencies that would develop strategies to solve local issues of poverty. Community action agencies provide really good work in the community. They change people's lives. They bring about hope in the communities by utilizing various programs such as community service block grants, low income energy assistance program, better known as LIHEAP, as well as the weatherization program, just to name a few. And here in the state of Georgia, there's nearly 20 community action agencies that serve families across the state. And again, House Bill 1040 will require the State Department of Human Services upon entering into a contract with these community action agencies across the state to make sure that they have their audit reports up to date with the Georgia Department of Audit and be up to date with their reporting with the Internal Revenue. You also have on your desk, committee members, Amendment 490040 that strikes line 19 by removing the word fully, and line 20 by removing the line each. So as a result, with this amendment, I'm offering, we will be removing shall be fully from line 19, shall be fully executed by each member of the Board of Directors of such community action agency. So those lines 19 and 20 have been offered in an amendment to remove from this legislation, but also to keep in the legislation that these agencies will be required to submit proof that they are current with their audits with the Georgia Department of Audits, as well as their 990 reporting with Internal Revenue. And if I may just share, in the state of Georgia, committee members, we require local governments to submit proof that they are current with their reporting to the Georgia Department of Audits before they can get any funding from state government. So this bill pretty much just mirrors what we're already doing on the state level for local governments. So at this time, I'll pause and take any questions from any members present or by phone, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Bennett, for bringing this legislation. And as you were explaining it, I had some concerns, and I just need you to clarify them because there's a reason why you're bringing forth this legislation. So evidently we have some community action agencies that are not administratively doing their job correctly. And so we need to either put it on another auspice, or we need to make sure that they are providing the reports that are due. And am I close to what you are insinuating, or is it proof that we do have agencies that are not abiding by the rules and regulations? And now that and I'm not asking you to name any agencies.
Mhm.
It's just that, is it at a point where we need oversight on these agencies to ensure that they are making their regular yearly reports or audits as necessary?
Yes, Representative Frazier, yes, we do need oversight. And currently, when a community action agency, and we have representatives from Department of Human Services here too, that can also speak on the bill, but currently in the state of Georgia, when the Department of Human Services enter into a contract with the local community action agencies, it is not a requirement that they show proof that they are current with their audits. There's not a requirement that they have to show proof that they are current with their 990 reporting to the Internal Revenue. And there are some across the state that are not compliant. And they are receiving federal funds that come from the federal government to the state of Georgia. It passes to the Department of Human Services down to these local community action agencies. And so basically this bill will ensure that the state is covered as we enter into contracts with these local agencies. Again, some of them are doing really great work across the state, trying to eliminate poverty across the state of Georgia. But there are some concerns in some areas, and I just think this bill will help ensure that we as a state are covered, because we are now entering into a contract with them to utilize these federal funds to do the work in the community, but also to make sure that they are compliant with federal reporting, with 990 to IRS and Georgia Department of Audits.
One final question, Mr. Chairman, and is that a requirement already?
It's not.
Okay, so your legislation will create that?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question.
Online, Representative Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Bentley and I spoke right before this hearing. My question is more for the representatives from DHS. Is there any way I can address my questions to them directly?
DHS, would you like to come forward?
Good afternoon, Representative Hutchinson.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
Would
How
you
are
state your name, Kevin?
My name is Kevin Harris. I'm the DHS Director of Government Relations with Child Welfare and Family Independence.
Thank you.
So most people know that I am a provider for DBHDD and DFACS, which eventually has its ties to DHS. As a provider, y'all ask for a lot as far as administration and at the last minute. And I'm almost certain we get audited at least yearly, and those audits are online. Everybody can see them. I just don't understand what situation we're in where you can't ask these providers for an audit. I mean, if anybody called me tomorrow about contracts and they say they need my DNA, which I feel like is coming soon, I would give them my DNA because we have to have these contracts to stay in business. So what situation do you have where you can't ask these providers to hand over their audits?
Representative, one of the primary differences probably in what you're dealing with a provider versus a community action agency. A community action agency, those are simply pass-through grants through the Department of Human Services, versus we are not the administrator or sort of the owner of those, the administrative agent for those grants. So that's a primary difference. What the law does require is we collect the annual report, as Representative Bentley stated. Other than that, on our end, there aren't as many requirements as there is particularly dealing with when you are the custodian or the owner of that grant. So as an example, the community action agency boards across the state are actually the administrators of that funds, versus we are simply the caretakers of the pass-through grant that gives the reports to us. I hope that clarifies your question, I hope.
Well, just follow up. So Georgia, if that's okay, Mr. Chair, Georgia has no authority to these agencies to say, we need your audits. They have no authority to do that.
Currently that the funds are basically distributed through and operated through the local boards. So you have 20 CAAs as well as 4 county governments, and they actually have the oversight of those boards. What the federal government requires is an annual report from us. And we're, just to go a step further, we're here to support Representative Bentley's efforts of transparency and accountability, and anything that the General Assembly saw in their infinite wisdom to increase to that, we would fully support it. But in terms of the actual ownership of that, it goes down to those local regional boards versus versus our agency.
Okay, it's hard to wrap my head around zero legislation versus overregulation. But that was just a comment.
Yeah, it's cool. Yes. Okay. Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of agree with Representative Hutchinson. It's like, I'm shocked that this already isn't a policy, and I don't feel like it needs to be a law. I think it could be administratively carried out. I mean, we can make it a law if you want, but everybody and their brother who gets money from the state of Georgia should be providing their 990 and their tax returns and any other reports that y'all request across the board. Like, we shouldn't be doing business with one single entity that we give money to without providing this information. And I don't think I've ever heard of anybody getting money without providing this information. So this whole thing is very curious to me. I believe as an administrative operation that you could require it just by saying it, like Representative Hutchinson says.
If we understand that that's the General Assembly's intent, there is a difference between policy and law. If we know that that's what you would like, I'm sure that we could offer to assist with that.
Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So by not having audits through your department, is that is funds reduced, federal dollars reduced because you do not have the backup paperwork for the money you have distributed on a yearly basis? Because I'm looking at this, if you can't give accountability for distributing these funds to all of these local agencies, and then the federal government is asking you for your audit and you can't provide it, so what circumstances are you in now?
Yeah, let me clarify just very quickly to make sure we're all on the same page. Each of these entities are audited, but they're audited from their local governing boards. So basically you have 20 different audits. We have copies of those generally for most of these entities. So when an audit is prepared, generally they send them to us. I think the concern of the representative is all those don't always do that. I think that is her concern. Is that correct, Representative Bentley?
And not, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How can they not do that?
The federal law requires the audit. The audit generally goes to that governing board, not to us. Generally as a courtesy copy, or basically as a courtesy, they forward that to us. I don't think what we're talking about is there's 20 of them, and you may be talking about a small, slim minority, maybe one, possibly two of these that are having any issues at all with this concern.
Representative Houston.
Isn't it not true that we've been working on this for years and gotten nowhere? And this is Representative Bentley's trying to get something done. I was just talking to Russ Goodman, and when I had to go out and get a 4-H picture, and most people don't even know they got a community action board in their county. And I live in a real, and they don't even know anything about it or what they do. And they're getting a lot of money and we want it to go to the people. We want everybody's light bill to be paid and we want everybody's house to be redone. That has to have energy. And we feel like this is a way we can get it done. And I'm tired of it. And I live in a rural area and I don't even know who's on the board. And you don't know anything about it till they put something in the paper and then people go down there to get their light done and they said the money's all gone. Well, where'd the money go to? I want to know. I'm sorry, but you probably didn't know you had one in your. You do what now? Yeah. But ours is gone just like that. I don't know what, well, and I think they contract with a group and I don't know who, we want to send an RFP in, or whatever you call it. And we just try to do some accountability. Y'all got a better way to make them accountable. That's
Representative Fry, are you still there? I think he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I agree with this 100%. I think you just say like, hey, if these guys aren't complying with the rules that you set out as a department, then you don't get money, right? That's what we're saying here, I think.
That's what we're saying, that they are not, just as we require for local cities and counties, they must be current with their audit reporting to the Georgia Department of Audit before they get any state funding. The same should apply for these community action agencies who are getting millions of dollars annually passing right on through to them. And they are not required to be current with their audits, and they are not required right now to be current with internal revenue.
Follow up.
Right.
So this is a good bill. Thank you for explaining it. Thank you for your time on this. Basically, this is just increasing the accountability.
Yes.
With some bad actors that we have in the C
Yes.
community centers. Gotcha.
that everybody has to, like somebody said, has to take the medicine because there's one or two bad apples.
Right.
But, and I'm real sorry that the
Yes.
people that are really going by the rules have to go by this, but that's just what happens when you got some bad apples.
Absolutely.
Representative Hutchins, so are you still,
Yes.
your hand back up?
Yes, just the conversation, I have more questions. So these entities, I'm assuming they're nonprofits since they're getting grants. And if they're nonprofits, they have to do an audit yearly to be compliant with anything, particularly the IRS. So I guess my question would be, well, first, I want to make sure we're not duplicating regulation, which it doesn't sound like we are. But the same question is Representative Fry. I mean, how are they doing business in Georgia without all this? Because like I said, most providers that I know of in my large community, they can't, step on a crack on the sidewalk without having their contracts canceled. I mean, compliance is very, very, very specific. So I guess I don't understand the situation. I agree with the bill if there's no regulation on them already. I just don't understand how we got here.
I've been working on this legislation for 6 years now, along with Chair Lady Houston. And this is where we are in the state of Georgia. So we have a bill now to fix that. So either we fix it now or we allow these agencies to continue to enter into contracts with the Georgia Department of Human Services with no real accountability.
Okay, I got Representative Nelson.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I want to thank Representative Bentley for bringing this. And me as being a retiree of the federal government, and it was a policy that we had, and we should be doing it everywhere, including the state. We should inspect what we expect. And I think this is going to be great legislation that can help all Georgians and help us to be able to give accountability to those that are doing what's right and those that are not. Make sure we bring them in line before they get one other penny.
Thank you.
Representative Frazier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time.
Appropriate time.
Good deal, good deal.
Good bill, okay.
Trying to help you out, Pat.
Thank you.
As we said at the beginning, this is a hearing only on this bill. We do need to have some more discussion on this.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
Mhm.
And Kevin, I'd like to meet with you too. So at this time, just to reiterate today, we have passed as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have passed as amended House Bill 1008. That's LC 338920. And on the bill in question now, we're going to hold. This was a hearing only on 1040. But we will be addressing this, and this has amendments by the author. That LC is LC 490684. I want to thank all in attendance today, and you'll be getting a notice about our next meeting. Thank you.